Now we come up on the boat known as Fort Apache S611. This is a 28-foot Seahawk powered by two 200-horsepower Mercury outboard motors. This boat is owned by Gary Ballo, who is also your driver of record. Gary is doing the throttling today. Mark Shannon is your driver from Boca Raton, Florida, and Frank DeLuca is your navigator. The Fort Apache race team. Gary would like to extend a special thanks to Joe Roberts of Fort Apache Marina for making it possible to be able to run at the World Championships. Fort Apache is the world's high-performance marine in the area. Fort Apache is locked in a fierce duel in the stock class with Vigilante, Skater Express, Insanity, Skater, and East Coast Marine. These smaller boats are certainly going to be taking a pounding out here, so this will certainly be a test of the fortitude of the race crew as well as the integrity of the motors and the race hulls that they'll be racing with here today. And Gary feels very strongly about his 28-foot Seahawk, and he believes that the preparation provided by Fort Apache Marina is going to get him to where he's got to be at the end of today's race. So we wish them all the best as the S-Class really starts to get going here in Atlantic City. Fort Apache race team. Fort Apache having a very rough ride, but they're the only V-bottom S boat today, so that could be an advantage to them in these rough seas where the Cats might not be able to do so well in the rough water. The crew of Ballo, Shannon, and DeLuca doing an excellent job here today. Now we come up on the hard-charging S99 Skater Express. They're the national champions for this year, holding off Hat Trick, Concattac, Vigilante Racing, and Sunfire on the national level. They are your national champs in stock class. S99 Skater Express. The sleek, all-red 24-foot skater is powered by two 200-horsepower Mercury outboard motors. This boat is owned by Glazer Marine Incorporated. It is driven by Joe Jacobson of St. Louis, Missouri, who is also doing the navigating, and Chip Hackman is your throttle man. Jacobson and Hackman had an excellent '89 campaign, and they certainly hope to capitalize and just culminate everything here with a good week of racing here for the World Championships and add that to their title of national champ. We'll have to wait and see how things unwind, but they're certainly in the thick of things right now with Vigilante and Fort Apache Marina for the top 3 spots in stock class. Skater Express had an excellent '89. They know what it takes. You see that they're running very well right now over these rough weather conditions, and we wish them all the best here today in Atlantic City, the Skater Express race team. Now we come up on S54, the Vigilante race team. This is a 24-foot blue and red skater powered by two 200-horsepower Mercury outboard motors. This boat is owned and driven by George Peterson from West Islip, New York, and Brian Dovzak is on throttles today. The team of Peterson and Dovzak making up the Vigilante race team, and they are in a fierce battle with Skater Express and Fort Apache Marina, who you just saw earlier on. Peterson has been racing for so many years. He's got quite a bit of racing accomplishments under his belt, a lot of experience. He knows these smaller boats, and he has been in the S-Class for so many years that he is definitely one of the champions and odds-on favorites. And with the addition of Dovzak on throttles, he feels he's got the right combination here today to take on the hard-charging Skater Express who we saw earlier on. That's Fort Apache Marina on the outside. So coming by is Peterson and Dovzak on the inside, making a move on Fort Apache Marina, and they're going after Skater Express, who we just saw. So this race is too close to call, obviously, but personally we feel that it's going to be a big battle between Vigilante and Skater Express as this week rages on. And here you see some good competition between Vigilante and the Fort Apache Marina. Peterson and Dovzak's Vigilante race team, we wish them all the best here today, as well as the remaining week of racing in Atlantic City, the Vigilante race team. Now we come up on another S-boat. It's S240, East Coast Marine Racing Team. This is a 24-foot Douglas skater powered by two 200-horsepower Mercury outboard motors. This boat is owned and driven by Kevin Stevens from Pembroke, Bermuda, and Henry Trott is your navigator and throttle man for the East Coast Marine Racing Team. Perhaps Stevens, not familiar with such rough water right now that we're encompassing, is trying to make up some distance between himself and Vigilante Skater Express, Fort Apache Marina, who you just saw earlier on. Peterson is tearing up the course, but right now East Coast Marine is trying to get back in the hunt in that lead group. Right there on the starboard motor, you can see that their engine cover has ripped off. Certainly a result of the hard pounding that this equipment is taking in these rough seas. We certainly hope that they could finish with it and hope water does not get into that engine compartment and foul things up. But Stevens and Trott are persevering through this rough water in the East Coast Marine Racing Team, and we wish them nothing but the best as they charge on here in Atlantic City, the East Coast Marine Racing Team. Stevens and Trott having a good run up to this point. Very rough, as you can see. Ooh, there's a rough one right there, and the goggles go flying off. He did have a reality check right there, and you saw the goggles go flying off. We hope everything is okay for the East Coast Marine Racing Team of Stevens and Trott. Now we come up on the boat known as Insanity, S23. It is a 24-foot skater powered by two 200 Mercury outboard motors. Chuck New is the owner and driver of record on this boat, and he is throttling. Driving today is Jason New. The News hailing from Staten Island, New York. They'd like to extend a special thanks to Pro Marine for doing a fine rigging job and maintaining the boat for the past 2 years, and they feel it has helped them form some form of consistency throughout the year. The Insanity Race Team doing a very fine job, and they have been some sponsorship from Pro Marine Racing also. In 1988, they were the third in the Northeast Division and third in the North American Division. So they do have some good credentials behind them, and they certainly hope to have a good week of racing here today. Insanity still enjoying a good run. We have been hearing that some classes have had some high attrition. Many boats have already retired, some have been disqualified, but the story today most likely would be all the boats who have been knocked out of the race by the rough seas today. So we'll have to wait and see how many have finished and in what place and who is knocked out. So anything can happen. Usually some of the odds-on favorites do not get in there as expected, and some unknowns could finish. But Insanity is having a good run nonetheless. Now we come up on our final boat of coverage today, and we'll be taking him to the start-finish line. We'll be soon compiling our final results, and then we'll be bringing them to you. This boat is S941, the Bermuda Racing Team. It is a 24-foot black skater powered by two 200 horsepower Mercury outboard motors. This boat is owned by Derek Simmons. Driving today is Anthony Stoneham from Pembroke, Bermuda. And Derek Simmons is your throttle man, also from Bermuda. Simmons and Stoneham making up the Bermuda Racing Team. Once again, the seas are very rough for them also, just as it was for East Coast Marina, who we saw earlier on. As I indicated, we're going to be staying with the Bermuda Racing Team. They're in the back portion of the pack in stock class. Vigilante, Skater Express, Fort Apache Marina are still dueling it out. Very close to call right now. We'll have to wait for the final results, but we're going to stay with the Bermuda Racing Team as he heads toward the finish line in his class. And after that, will be compiling all the final results in all the classes to bring you the final results of the first leg in the 1989 World Championships in Atlantic City.